I'm pretty confident you never thought you'd be saying you need to pack your ski stuff to come to Australia. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. For today's video, I thought I would talk about 10 things that surprised me when I seen them here in Australia. So getting straight into it, number one is people walking barefoot. Now I have touched on this in previous videos, but since moving to the Central Coast, I have noticed this so much more. And basically, whenever you're in the supermarket or you're just out and about at the petrol station, you will always see someone walking about without any shoes on. Now, I have had previous comments on this about why people do it here in Australia, and it's all to do with the goodness and wellness of it. And whilst I don't disagree with that, it's just a shock. Someone coming from the UK, I can assure you, we would never walk outdoors in our bare feet, and I think that has a lot to say about Australia, especially with it being so clean here, and you don't have your usual crisp packets and like cigarettes and amongst so much other things lying on the streets of the UK. Now, number two may be more of a controversial one, however, it's all to do with families. So since we have now spent time in both Sydney and we are now obviously in the Central Coast, I have attended quite a few mothers groups and playgroups, and obviously just my observation being around parks and family communities, I've definitely noticed that people start to have children a little bit older here. Now, like I say, this has been an observation from me, and certainly coming from the UK, I feel like we definitely have children a little bit earlier than what they do here in Australia. Now, I did look at some stats for this because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't purely just an observation of those around me. However, I actually did come across a really good website, which I will link here below, and it made me realise that figures and statistics definitely have changed over the last 20 to 30 years. So in the 1990s, 15% of women over 30 were starting to have a family. So then skip ahead to 2020, and that figure has actually gone up to over 50%. So over 50% of women over the age of 30 are now making the decision to start their families. And 17% of women over the age of 35 are starting to have a family. And it's something that definitely caught my attention when I have obviously been spending time here. A lot of the groups that I go to, I definitely feel like I'm one of the younger mums, especially having 2 children as well. And I do think it's to do with the cost of living here in Australia, and especially Sydney. Now, it was a point that I was a little bit nervous to touch upon because obviously age is just a number, but in the UK, we are definitely, I wouldn't say under pressure, but I definitely felt like it was my time to start a family, anywhere between the age of 26 and 30. And I think here it's definitely not so much in people's thoughts at that time. And it's definitely nice to see, however, it's just purely an observation that I have made since appearing here. Now, I'd be interested to know if people feel the same, either from those that have moved over from the UK or if you are Australian. What's your thoughts on this? And do you feel that it's purely just an observation from me, or is this something that is kind of a set standard all over Australia? Now, moving on to my next point, and something that definitely surprised me when I seen this, it's cyclists who have cable ties in their helmets.
What?
There were signs around the park that were making me aware that we were into swooping season, which means the magpies here will swoop, and it's usually between the months of August, September and October, and that is the time that they will then lay their eggs, and they are giving you a warning to stay away. Now, something else that I also learned is that magpies will remember your eyes. That's the way that they will identify you. So if you get swooped by a magpie, the chances of you getting swooped again by that same magpie are very high, because they have like took a screenshot of you in their head and they are looking for you. Now, whilst I myself have not been swooped by a magpie yet, I have witnessed it, and I think the lady in question was either on her phone or she was having a conversation, but she was around the nest that they had decided to lay literally next to the footpath, and because of this she was continuously getting swooped by this magpie, and yeah, it was definitely something that seemed quite scary, but people do take precautions, and this is the reason that they wear the cable ties, or I've seen pipe cleaners as well, and obviously on kids especially, but it just keeps them from swooping at your face. Now my next one is one that I am very excited to share with you, but also probably the highest one in my list that shocked me the most, and that is that Australia has snow. So whilst we are known for our piercing sun, extremely high temperatures and bushfires, just a 6-hour drive from Sydney will bring you to the Snowy Mountains, or as most Australians call them, the Snowies. Now the Snowies are home to Australia's 5 tallest peaks, which are all above 2,100 metres, and they receive an average of 1.9 metres of snowfall per year. Now, since finding this information out, we have definitely added it to our list of places that we would like to visit whilst being in Australia. I never thought I'd be saying that. And if you do want to come a little bit closer, then you can also visit the Blue Mountains. Now, I think their time for snow is, in my head it's summer, but it's actually winter here, so I think it's June, July and August, and although it's not as much snowfall as the Snowy Mountains will obviously get, I think they do get the occasional snow. And actually brings me on nicely to my next point, which is Christmas in July. Now this is another thing that I only learned when I arrived in Australia, and it surprised me that all the shops were having their Christmas sales in July, until I learned that because of the drop in weather at that time, so that is obviously our winter, and although it is not anywhere near what I am used to in the UK, they do tend to celebrate Christmas and go into like little events and things in July when the weather is cooler. Now the Blue Mountains do put on a festival called Yule Fest, which again I have recently learned about, and it's where you can spend a weekend in the mountains, and they have log fires, they have carol singers, little Christmas markets, and I think you can even expect a visit from Santa, and it just gives it that Christmassy feel. So yes, they have Christmas trees up, and whilst this just completely does blow my mind, I also think it would be quite nice to experience, given that we have now experienced Christmas Day here and temperatures were very high, you tend to spend it at the beach. It's quite nice to be able to experience that, albeit in July. Moving on to point number 6 of things that definitely surprised me when I came to Australia, and that is all about language that is used on the radio. Now I know Australians will be watching this and laughing, because the language on the radio here is definitely different to what I am used to back home, and by that, yes, I am talking about swearing. Whilst I do not care, it does not offend me whatsoever. It was just a shock to be driving my little girl to daycare and listening to the language on the radio at that time. Now I'm sure some radio stations are different. The one I listen to in particular does make me laugh, and it suits our sense of humour to a T. However, it was just a shock to hear those types of swear words just casually being thrown out on the radio station. In the UK, the leaders of Ofcom would absolutely pass out if they were over here. Now, like I said, we do enjoy it. It doesn't offend us whatsoever. It just came as quite a shock, because in the UK we are so PG, and yeah, you wouldn't ever find anything like that. Nor would you find some of the conversations that genuinely I have had to turn over because I've had my little girl in the car. And yeah, just obviously it's more relaxed here. We do enjoy it, just a big shock. Now number 7, probably my husband's favourite one, but that is the drive-through alcohol shops. Again, we don't have anything like this in the UK, and it can just be so good. When you're driving back, you literally just drive through a little, it's like a little arch, drive through it, pick up your alcohol and drive home. It's just literally the most simplest, easiest thing, and I'm surprised actually that we don't have them in the UK, but then I can also understand why we maybe don't. But we've never come across that before, apart from our time in Mexico. There was a Corona drive-through, but it was more just a thing for Corona rather than like a countrywide thing, whereas I have seen a lot of them here in Australia, and we have one literally within walking distance of our house, but yeah, we still seem to be taking the car to that one. Okay, next one for me is definitely a gripe. It definitely grinds my gears and really annoys me, and it's something that we don't have in the UK and I wish we never had it here. And that is paying for sauce or milk. I've got two gripes here. So in the UK, I can't even remember the last time I had to pay for sauce. And unless it was somewhere like super fancy, you never really had to pay for it. It always just came as an option if you needed it. Whereas here we are, I mean, me and my kids especially, we do love tomato sauce. Yes, we are British. But it really annoys me when I stand and pay for food and then ask for tomato sauce and they say, oh, you need to pay for it. Get back in the queue and then pay for this tub of sauce, which honestly would feed a family of 6. It just annoys me, and although it's only a couple of dollars, I just feel like it's something that we definitely don't have in the UK. You don't have to pay any additional fee for sauce. Now, I am going to say yes, you do get chicken salt and everything, and that in itself is amazing. But as a family who do love their tomato sauce, it's just more frustrating when you haven't paid for it and you either have to go back and stand in the queue to pay for sauce rather than just grab it and go and enjoy your chips. Milk is another one that just super annoys me. Now, I don't drink full cream milk. I drink oat milk or soy milk, and it's always an additional fee. Now, the reason this annoys me, please hear me out, the reason this annoys me is because I am choosing not to have milk, which does cost money, but I'm choosing to have soy milk or oat milk, and I'm always charged like 80 cents more for choosing to have that milk. Now, people will say in the comments, it's more expensive, but it's not more expensive. You can get various types of milk as you can with full cream milk, and it just annoys me that I'm not having it as an additional extra. I'm having it in place of the full cream milk. So yes, that is a gripe, and again, maybe the UK has changed, but when I left it just under a year ago, I didn't have to pay any extra for swapping my milk over. So yes, that's a gripe. I'm sorry, don't come at me, but it's just something that, it's a very small thing. We don't have chicken salt in the UK. Please don't come at me. We don't have chicken salt, and that makes everything better, but yes, it's just annoying. You're also left with this big tub of sauce as well, which I don't need. So yeah, I'm going to try and buy, like, you know, the little sachets you get in McDonald's. Next time I'm in, I'm going to try and grab a handful and just keep them in my bag, because I feel like A, it'll save money, and B, it's just enough. Now again, this next point may come across as quite controversial. However, I hope it doesn't, because it's completely meant to come over as a compliment. But it's all to do with the manners of teenage boys here in Australia. Now, I do say boys because it's, again, I'm comparing it to our kind of experience with teenagers in the UK, but the boys here are super, super polite and really, really nice manners. The ones that we have come across, both in Sydney and here in the Central Coast, they've just been really helpful and very polite, especially when I'm out with my kids. Now, for example, the other day my little boy dropped his comforter, and this boy, teenager, he came across and picked it up for him and handed him it. And just simple things like when I'm walking through somewhere, they will keep the door open, they will speak to the kids. And just overall, it's just a really, really nice experience. Now, I did say that I'm comparing it to the UK, and whilst you do get your groups everywhere who are maybe not as polite and maybe a little bit more cheekier, I understand that yes, you can get them everywhere and anywhere. But in the UK, I just feel like it's not as obvious as it is here in Australia. And yes, by that, I just mean overall manners and kindness. Patience, you know, just all those things are very noticeable here, and yeah, it's really, really nice. So it's definitely a compliment and credit to the parents. I think it's lovely to see, and it's definitely nice, especially when you're a mum of 2 and you're out on your own with them. They've all been really, really lovely. So yes, that's my next point. Now, my last one, I am unfortunately ending on a bit of a negative again. Here she is, whinging Pom, but it's all to do with the surcharge on the public holidays. Now again, this is something we don't have in the UK, and it's something that I'm just still quite unsure of how it is legal here. But if there is a public holiday, which is usually for Easter, for example, it was Good Friday and Easter Monday, on those days you can expect to pay a surcharge when you are eating out. So the surcharge is usually anywhere between 10 and 15%. I know in Sydney I've seen one that was as high as 20%, which is a lot, but that is a percentage you will pay on top of your normal bill, just for it being a public holiday. Now that alone doesn't really sit great with me, but then they extend it out to the full weekend. So even though the Saturday and Sunday isn't a public holiday, that is classed as a public holiday weekend as a whole. So if you are eating out Friday, Saturday, Sunday or Monday, then you will be paying an extra 10 or 15% over and above your bill. Let me know your thoughts on that below. I'm keen to understand if Australians find that super annoying as well. I know if you are eating out as a family, it can be expensive on itself, never mind adding on another 15%. But yeah, I am keen to understand if that is something that annoys you guys as well, or if it's just something that you have got used to, or maybe you agree with it and maybe you think that that is the right thing to do. Let me know below, because I am very keen to understand. So that is me now come to the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts below if you enjoyed this one. Hopefully it has come across very positive. I am still enjoying my time here in Australia, and to be honest, it can be hard to find 10 points of things that are different to the UK, and a lot of the things are very, very positive. So hopefully nobody caused any offence to this video, because that is never ever intended. And yeah, like I say, we are fully enjoying it, and I'm excited for our next video, which is going to be about our kind of recap of our last year in Australia, because we are very quickly approaching that 1 year milestone. And I think the last one I done with Ewan was quite popular, and I feel like a lot of people did enjoy it. So I'm hoping to do another one with him to get his views and opinions on our last year as well as my own. So yes, I'll hope to see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.